Approximately 3,000 American soldiers are already positioned on the border with Iran, while military bases throughout the United States have begun operating at an accelerated pace to facilitate the shipment of heavy equipment abroad as the escalation in the Middle East intensifies. Logistical mobilization has been given top priority, with support units working around the clock. On the ground, infantry and Marines were already mobilized, but they needed armored vehicles, artillery, and vehicles to sustain a prolonged campaign. This required large-scale maritime transport. At military installations, railway yards began loading armored vehicles onto flatbed wagons, forming long convoys that headed towards ports, where transport ships awaited to bring combat power to the conflict zone. But before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, armored trucks, all were being loaded onto ramps and positioned on trains, secured with chains and chocks to prevent any movement during transport. At the airfields, Boeing AH-64 Apache attack helicopters were being removed from the hangars. Their rotor blades, folded for storage, were being opened and locked. The Apaches were started up, took off, and headed straight for the port, where naval transport ships awaited. The helicopters would be loaded along with the ground vehicles. When the rail convoys arrived at the ports, the scale of the operation became evident. Scattered throughout the preparation areas were columns of military vehicles stretching in all directions. Jeeps and light trucks for personnel transport, HIMARS rocket launchers, fuel tanker trucks, light and heavy armored vehicles, M113 armored personnel carriers, Humvees equipped with gun turrets, M1 Abrams main battle tanks, each weighing over 63 tons, M2 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, recovery vehicles, engineering equipment, mobile command posts, and dozens of other specialized military machines, all lined up in rows, engines off, waiting to be loaded. The vehicles were organized into loading columns and began to move toward the transport ships anchored at the dock. These are large roll-on-roll Derrantes-off type ships, specifically designed to transport military equipment. The vehicles climb the stern ramp under their own power and are parked inside the ship's cargo decks. The loading process is slow and methodical. Each vehicle has a designated spot within the ship based on its weight, size, and the order in which it will need to be unloaded at its destination. The heaviest vehicles, such as Abrams and Bradley tankers, are positioned on the lower decks, where the ship's structure better supports the weight. The lighter vehicles are placed on the upper levels. Everything is planned in a loading plan even before the first vehicle is loaded. The drivers guide the vehicles up the ramp one at a time, guided by the ship's crew through hand signals and radio. Inside the cargo decks, space is tight. Vehicles are parked just inches apart to maximize capacity. Every maneuver, every reverse, every stop needs to be precise. A single mistake, and a tank weighing over 60 tons could hit the vehicle next to it. The deadline for loading was 3 days. This meant that the teams worked non-stop in day and night shifts without interruption to the operation. During the day, sunlight streamed in through the open ramps. At night, the decks were illuminated by industrial ceiling lights and the headlights of the vehicles being driven inside. Forklifts transported pallets of spare parts and ammunition to storage compartments between the vehicles. Smaller equipment, toolkits, radios, and medical supplies was carefully packed into containers and stacked in every available space, making the most of every area of the deck. Once each vehicle was positioned in its designated location, the meticulous securing process began. The ship's crew and Army transport specialists worked together to ensure maximum safety. High-strength steel chains were attached to anchor points welded to the deck and connected to the vehicle structures. Each chain was tensioned with turnbuckles and precisely locked. A single vehicle received multiple tie-downs, front, rear, and sides, preventing any movement during the ocean crossing, even in rough seas. After 3 days of continuous and meticulous loading, the ships were completely full. The stern ramps were raised and sealed, and with everything ready, the mooring lines were released for departure. Tugboats guided the heavy ships out of the dock and towards the shipping channel. The transport ships headed out to sea, formed a convoy, and charted a course for a port in the Middle East where the equipment would be unloaded. Escort ships took up positions around the convoy. Meanwhile, on the border with Iran, American forces already on the ground were putting their existing equipment into operation. A HIMARS battery received a fire mission. The M142 HIMARS vehicle, a 6-wheeled truck equipped with a single rocket launcher, was positioned in a concealed location behind a low elevation. The team awaited the order. When the coordinates arrived, the operators acted quickly. The firing order was given. The first rocket was activated and launched with a huge explosion of fire and smoke. The truck shook with the force of the launch. Seconds later, the second rocket was launched. Next came the third. The rockets streaked across the sky in sequence, describing arcs toward the target, an area of enemy vehicle concentration tens of kilometers away. Each rocket carried a payload designed to destroy armored vehicles and exposed equipment. As the last rocket left the launcher, the team began to withdraw. The system was retracted into the travel position. The driver engaged the gear, and the HIMARS immediately left the launch point. In an advanced position, an American reconnaissance team prepared an unmanned aerial vehicle for a surveillance mission. Stored in a hard case, the drone was carefully removed by the operators, who quickly began assembling it in a flat, safe area of the terrain, maintaining constant attention to the surrounding environment. The wings were attached to the fuselage, the rear section was firmly locked, and the control surfaces underwent a thorough check to ensure free movement and precise response. On the underside, the camera module was activated and tested, with the image being confirmed at a portable control station mounted on the hood of a tactical vehicle. After the batteries were installed, the motor was briefly started to check its operation. With a positive response, the drone took off quickly, gaining altitude and tilting towards the designated surveillance area. On the control station screen, the live transmission displayed the terrain in real time with high clarity. While flying over high ground, open areas, roads, and dry riverbeds, the operators closely monitored every movement, seeking to identify enemy vehicles, troop positions, supply routes, or any indication of military activity. Did you enjoy our content? Leave your opinion in the comments. Until next time.